I would like to welcome all of you to this first Zoom, and I hope it proves to be very productive for all of us. And it's great to see people that I've never seen before, and it's warming to see all the people that I know. It gives me comfort. So one of the first things that I would like to do is to, let's see, I am going to introduce and welcome our board members that are here. And that would be Patty, who's
Hello,
our
everyone.
vice president. We have Jay, who's our treasurer. We have David.
Everybody.
I don't see him, but I'm guessing he's waving.
Oh, there's Randy. Okay.
Is he waving? Okay, I can't see it. So we have Bob Skanke. And we have, let's see, who else do we have?
I think that's it for board.
Well, we have Kirsten.
Oh, yes, yes, sorry.
Because Kirsten's going to be the new genealogist. And I believe she's in transition right now, just getting ready to go into that position if I have it right. So welcome, Kirsten.
It's great to be here. We're so excited.
Oh, good. I am too. This is really new kind of things for me. So the first thing I'll do is I will turn it over to David Cooley, who's going to talk for just a few minutes about the Cooley Family Association history.
Okay, now I'm going to spotlight David. Thank you so much, Nancy. That was beautiful. And let me see if I can find.
I don't need a spotlight.
Hi, David.
David, you have to let me use my skills or else.
Oh, there's Dorothy.
I've been here.
Oh, I didn't see you, Dorothy. So
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
We also have Dorothy Smith, and she is our communique editor. Okay, David, you're on.
Thank you, Nancy. Thanks everybody for joining, and it's an honor to be a part of this historic. As a historian, I have to write this date down. First ever Zoom call. In my corporate world, I actually sold video conferencing in I don't know, 20 years ago, when it cost a lot more and didn't work as well. So this is great to get everybody pretty easily together. So the Cooley Family Association, as a lot of you may know, but I'll just kind of give the thumbnail sketch, really was inspired by the work of Dean Mortimer Cooley, who was the engineering dean at the University of Michigan, and had as one of his passions the notion that he could try to figure out all the Cooleys in the U.S. and how everybody's related in their lineage, et cetera. And from that, with help from his able assistant, Vivian, and a couple of, I think, his nephews, they created the book everybody talks about, the Cooley genealogy, which has been around, like the organization, since about 1936, I think was the copyright, roughly. And chock full. I mean, even back then, there were a lot of Cooleys, and you can imagine how exponentially the Cooley family has grown. You see the name now more and more in the news or in, various, whether it's business, politics, sports, or whatever. So it's a pretty exciting place to be, and people try to get organized in terms of how they fit and who their cousins are, and some of the great stories of folks in the Cooley family that have done some pretty impressive things. And from that came, and actually my great uncle, Perry Cooley, who drafted, along with his wife, who was an expert in the Robert's Rules of Order, drafted the first Constitution back in 1936 and was at the first meeting and first reunion. So every 2 years, the Cooley Family Association traditionally has a get-together and a reunion, it's called, and various things happen at the reunions, whether it's researching local history, and we try to pick places that have some connection to the Cooley family. and also some fun things to do at the same time. So it's typically a weekend event, and really steadily since 1936, they've happened every 2 years, with the exception of World War II and COVID. So it's been a great organization. It's grown. Mortimer's vision, I think, was to get a building originally that all the Cooley information could be housed, and raised a fair amount of money to do that, but not enough to get a building. But over time, the money has grown. We still don't have enough for a building, but we don't need a building anymore. I think with the technology today, a lot of this can be digitized, and the Cooley family library, if you will, can be a virtual place. So we've slowly made progress in that direction. We've been able to collect Cooley Family Association libraries from Kentucky and Virginia and Ohio, and put those all in one place near Long Meadow, Mass, which is where Benjamin emigrated from in 1635 or so. Correct me if I'm wrong, but so we do have in a single location now a lot of documentation that some has been digitized and is on the website, but there's a whole lot more that needs to be done. So we're in the process now. We're at the Noble and Cooley Center for Historic Preservation in Granville, Massachusetts. It's about a 40-minute ride from Long Meadow, and it's not a marble and pillar library like you might think of traditionally. It's the Noble and Cooley Drum Factory, so it's essentially a warehouse, but it's got tables and digitization equipment, and all our stuff is in a square footage area of shelves, and people are free to take a look at that, but just coordinate it ahead of time so we can get you in the building and make sure that somebody's there and things like that. So we've really been doing some exciting things, and beyond the reunion. And I'll talk about the DNA thing. I was thinking, well, I have a little blurb, I think, as the historian later. I don't know. I'll cover it now, I guess. So there's also a Cooley family DNA project that's been ongoing for quite some time, and it's led by Michael Cooley. He's in California, and it's really a DNA surname project. So it's all about the Cooley surname. So it's male DNA testing with the Cooley surname. The objective in everybody's mind was that not everybody goes back to Benjamin, as we've already heard, right? I think early on everybody assumed that when Mortimer wrote this book that everybody was descended from Benjamin, and that's not necessarily the case. So I think he's discovered through DNA, and he's a whiz with this stuff, and I can't go too deep into the science without his help, but there's at least 7 to 9 distinct Cooley families in the United States. And 8 of those don't necessarily go back to Benjamin. Michael and I, we figured with our DNA, he's Michael Cooley, I'm Dave Cooley, and it's 4,000 years before we have a common ancestor. So it's just goes beyond even comprehension for me. So not everybody named Cooley is related, and so that's been interesting with the DNA project. But the nice part is, if you do come from the Benjamin side, we're trying to figure out more in England, and who was Benjamin, who were his brothers, and what can we do to try to get more evidence of we've exhausted that paper trail through research efforts in England, and so the DNA project's an exciting piece of that. You can look up Michael Cooley's blog online, Michael Cooley DNA Project, and you'll find his blog, and he updates it regularly, and he's very scientific about it, and it's way over my head, but he does know what he's talking about. It's really interesting to keep track of that. So in a nutshell, that's it. We're doing a lot. We'd love to have more members. We'd love to have more folks join our team to help organize and manage the whole organization. As these volunteer-based organizations are always a bit of a challenge to keep staffed and keep successful. We're lucky we have a really good team. So you could join and jump right in and not worry. With that, I'll turn it back to you, Patty, or Nancy, I guess.
We are going to go into just brief board introductions, where each board member will introduce themselves, tell everyone what their role is, and let us know what value it is to them to be part of the Cooley family.
Oh, God.
Give her first, and then she'll hand it off to Jay. And I'll try to spotlight, so just breathe twice between people.
Okay. And so I'm Nancy Tinsley from St. Charles, Missouri. That's just outside of St. Louis. And my mama was a Cooley, and she passed away last year. So this will be the first reunion that I attend without my mom. I love being part of the Cooleys. When I first went to the first reunion, I have to say, I didn't want to go, but my mom insisted. And other family members, my aunts and that, had already been in the Cooley family. And after the first reunion, I got hooked. The first person I met was Jay Smith. And it took me by surprise that I was going to feel so comfortable. And everybody was so inviting. And I learned so much at the reunion. We did research at the reunion. We all ate our meals together. There were presentations. I loved it. I just loved it. And I felt right away that I belonged. And I think everybody felt, the same way. I didn't really know anybody. But it was just a fantastic feeling. So I've been with it. And I'm doing my part by serving, because I really feel like everybody should give back something, because it's been a terrific experience. I have learned so much. Being president is not a difficult job. In fact, I don't even consider it a job. I consider it a gift, you could say. I've met so many interesting people. We've done so many different kinds of projects. Doesn't really take a lot of time to have the name president beside my name, but it does introduce me to a lot of different people. It inspires me to do more. But I have to tell you that I'm not alone. And I've never been alone, even though I have a title and everybody on the board has a title. We've always been a team, and it's always been that way, probably from 1936 till now. It's never just one single person. We all make a contribution. And so it's been great. I've served with a couple of teams over the last, few years, and I've loved it. So I'd like to encourage all of you to think about how you might serve too. So I will pass this on to Jay Smith.
Well, I have a long time history with this organization and with the Cooley family. When I was just 16 years of age, my great aunt, who was our Cooley family representative in Utah, heard about the Cooley book and went back to Michigan to actually see the book and get it and share her genealogy and get the genealogy from that book. And she asked me to come and help her with some of that. So I kind of got interested very early. My mother was a Cooley, or is a Cooley. She's passed on by now. And I got interested then with the Cooley family early. And I've been a member now for 56 years. I joined in 19.
Whoa.
Had the opportunity of being involved in many activities. I've been the president, I've been a vice president, I've been a treasurer. I'm back to being a treasurer again when my son Randy, who had taken over for treasurer, left the country and said, well, you've got to take over. I am an accountant by background. I was a professor of accounting for 40 years, taught in mostly Brigham Young University, but also at University of Minnesota for 7 years. And so it kind of fits in that I'm the treasurer. But as I'll tell you a little later on when I have a part on the program, I've been involved in many reunions. And it has been a thrill to meet so many Cooleys. I haven't met a bad Coolie yet. It's been wonderful to work with so many officers. So I encourage all of you who are Zooming in today. Many of you are members just for the last few years. And I had a chance to talk to some of you on the phone, inviting you to be sure and come to this meeting. So I'm so happy to see it happening. And I'm glad that I'm still here in my 90th year and still excited to be part of the Cooleys. So I'll pass this on now to Patty.
Yay, I'll spotlight myself. Hopefully I won't get stuck here. So, hi everybody, I'm Patty Cooley Wetzel. I'm in California, and my role is vice president, and my task at hand generally is to help to organize programs and projects and special things that at the board's discretion we want to do, mostly to generate interest, but also to help grow and retain membership. When I was a little girl, my grandfather on special Sundays would come over with one of those like carpetbagger cardboard suitcases with our old family Bible in it. And it was such a pleasant time because they'd sit around and laugh and try to make up stories and remember what they heard. But I had an ancestor named Napoleon Bonaparte Cooley. And we couldn't really figure out where the line went because we all ended up west, and tracking people down that had, you know, gone west was kind of tough. And so kind of by accident, I found Napoleon's grandfather's name, and I went to the Family History Society one day, and I said, look, I'm trying to put John Cooley with a run of Cooley. And within about a minute, the guy came back with a probate document, and it ran Napoleon's line all the way up to Benjamin. And then I found the Cooley family, and I didn't know they existed. And then I found out that they were having a reunion. So I was like, oh my gosh. So I joined, and I flew out to Washington, D.C. And, you know, the traffic was terrible, and I thought I was too late, and they were having a meet and greet, and I zipped up the elevator. I still had my luggage. I knocked on the door. They let me in. And then I gushed. Okay, so my line is Benjamin, Daniel, Benjamin, Nathaniel, Adonijah, Arena, and then David Cooley, the president at the time, goes, oh, I've never met anyone that close to my line. So I met within an hour my seventh cousin. So by nature, I love to organize. I'm creative. I'm not a leader. I don't speak in public, but it is of great value to me to just be part of this organization. I think my father would be so proud of me. And I get to do all these creative things. You know, we flew to Missouri to see what it was like to be at a family conference. So we manned a booth and we chit-chatted with everyone. And the feeling that I got at that first reunion was exactly what Nancy said. I felt like I was waking up on Christmas morning with my family. And actually everybody pretty much, they're your cousins, you know? And so I was asked to serve on the board, you know, and then this and that and the other thing turned out, but it's of great value to me, not only preserving my own family history, learning so much, having access to the scrapbooks. And I you know, the stories and the papers. So that's my favorite part of the Cooleys, are the stories. And there's a lot to be proud of. And I wrote down a little note for myself that there are good reasons to want the Cooley Family Association of America to thrive and flourish into the future. Part of it is just the chance to be together. The reunions are very fun and very educational. And I'm gonna sign myself out because my cat is now getting a hold of me. And I will pass this on to David Cooley, and you'll forgive me if I left out any part of my speech.
You did great. You did great. So yeah, thanks. I know you just heard from me a little bit, but I'll talk about how I became involved. My mother was very interested in the Cooley line, not a Cooley herself until marriage and all, but my father, who was the Cooley, didn't really seem all that interested. But it seems like there's got to be somebody in the family that kind of puts all those pieces together for the family. And you know, of all my siblings now, I'm the one that has been involved. And took my kids to the reunion in 2006 in Longmeadow, and met Jay and everybody, and it was right up the road, so it was an easy thing for me to do. And within a year, I was replacing him as vice president and then president for a couple of years. Actually, 2008 to 2012, I was the president, and that was a great experience. And we have a great team, like I said. But I think my career at the time was just too insane to keep it up, and so I, have since taken a little bit of a step back, but not really. The historian role has been really more in my wheelhouse. I think I'm more interested in the historical aspects of everything, and kind of runs with the family. But the reunions are just amazing, and getting to meet all the great, cousins, as Patty said, it's worthwhile. And so I enjoy it, have no regrets, have no plan on leaving anywhere or anytime soon. And look forward to answering any questions later anybody has on, any of the topics that we're covering. So with that, I think I go back to Patty, but does that make sense?
I think you do. And so let me do this. So I'm going to put my cat out. Let's see. And then I think Nancy, actually, let me spotlight you. I'm going to put my cat out the back door. And we are covering for.
We want to hear from Kristen.
Actually, we want Kristen. So, Kristen, do you have a video?
I can put on my video. I don't know if you guys can see me. I'm in the dark. Here I am. There I am.
Hello.
How are you? I am working on I am under Doug Cooley at the moment for being an assistant genealogist for the Cooley Foundation. So what we end up doing is that we get the applicants' applications for people who want to join the foundation. And then we input all of it into a marvelous archive that and cite and document each generational link. And so we're working on trying to make a more complete documented family tree where we can all reference what we're doing, and how we're all connected.
This is the first time we're seeing your face.
Oh, hi.
Yeah.
The stoplight. I'm almost at the place I'm supposed to be, so we're really close. So you'll be able to see me later on in the meeting for sure. But I am a professional genealogist. I work here in Utah. I generally get paid to specialize in Italian research, but because I have zero Italian ancestry at all, I enjoy working with the Cooleys because I'm actually related to all of you. So it's enjoyable to be actually tracking and documenting the sources and tracing all of our lines. It's amazing.
Wonderful.
We are so happy to have you.
Yes.
I'm glad to be
Nice.
here. And so I will turn it back to whoever, unless people have additional questions, I will turn it back over.
Okay.
Kristen, can you put your email in the chat later, please?
I will totally do that. Yes.
Thank you.
No worries.
It's genealogist at CooleyFamilyAssociation.com. I get to it on the website.
Okay. Now,
I've got a question, if I may, of you, Kristen. Kristen, I guess. I communicated with David earlier about the WikiTree website. Are you using that at all? Is that something that's accessible to the rest of the group?
So WikiTree, I'm not sure. What we work through is our family tree maker database, and I think Doug uploads it to the archive or up to our website, our CFAA website, and there is access to that. I don't know the full details of that. I'm generally the grunt woman at the moment, so I'm just inputting all the information. So
Yeah.
I can get that information to you if you'd like.
Yeah, and David, do you have thoughts about how that database might compare to the WikiTree database, which is available to just about anybody to input? Thoughts on that?
Yeah, really not from my side. I know that, with Doug and Kirsten as the genealogists, they're the ones in the science of that. I'm kind of more the historian of the organization, and I was fortunate with my mother's work and others that I kind of have all my lineage figured out. So I haven't figured out how the Cooley, the master Cooley family or WikiTree, which is the most reliable and those things. I don't have the best handle on that. I think Doug and Kirsten would be the right people to figure that out for us.
Well, okay, so Kirsten, could I somehow communicate with you or you with me about this?
Yes, so I will put out the email, and we will, if you guys have any grievances or inquisitions, we will communicate through email at the moment, since we want to keep the meeting mildly focused on all the Cooley
All
stuff.
right.
So
Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, just quickly on the CFAA webpage, there's all the officers listed, and there are links to the email addresses that you can use. Now, Doug and Kirsten are kind of in a dual role, so I think they're both getting the emails that go from that link, but I can't swear to it yet. Hope that's helpful.
Okay, this is the portion where we want to give everybody a chance to, if they have anything that they'd like to bring up and have the board answer. We've set aside a few minutes if you're interested in the reunion. If you can't log on to your member login, I'm about to tell Becky that you send an inquiry to webmaster at Cooley Family Association.com, and he'll help you get set up. His name is Brandon. So we have a lot of people on the call. Does anyone want to ask any questions of our board members or just anything in particular? We are going to go, Nancy and I are going to try to carry just a little bit of what Doug wanted to say about our original goals of the organization. I'm going to put up our trifold, and we'll just walk through what we stood for, what our mission was, and then some of the things that David hinted at, which is going forward, kind of what our goals are. And then Nancy and I will talk about the upcoming reunion and what our plans and logistics and those things are.
Like Jack has a hand up.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jack Wells. I don't have a question. I just wanted to say I'm a new member and glad to join all of you. I've been in touch with Doug and David and Kristen and had some nice conversations with them online. And the main reason I joined the Cooley Association was my great-grandmother was Mary Jane Cooley. And through her, I came into the possession of a beautiful desk that was made in about 1800. And the desk was made at the order of my ancestor, Ebenezer Cooley, who was a ship captain who lived in Norwich, Connecticut, and traded between Norwich and the West Indies. So on one of his voyages to Demerara, which is in what is now British Guiana, he brought back a load of mahogany and had it made into a desk, a slant top desk. And
Wow.
that desk has kind of worked its way down through the family over, I don't know, 7, 8 generations, something like that. And of about 100 people that it might have wound up with, it wound up with me. And so I really treasure that desk. And so I've taken an interest in learning more about the Cooley family, and I'm particularly interested in seeing if I can find any other descendants of Ebenezer Cooley. Now, I should mention that I have recently discovered, thanks to Kristen, that there are quite a number of Ebenezer Cooleys in the Cooley family line, and it's easy to get them mixed up. I think I finally got my Ebenezer Cooley distinguished from some of the other Ebenezer Cooleys. But very happy to meet all of you and looking forward to being part of the association.
Terrific.
And Jack sent me a picture of the desk, and hoping we can get it in the next communique with a little bit of the story of Ebenezer. So it's pretty neat.
Oh, that's so nice to share.
Oh, yeah.
I
Oh,
can show you the
yeah.
desk if you let me share my screen, but that might be too much.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, you've got to disable. You've got to allow me to share it.
Yeah, we can put it in.
So whoever's our host has to click the. It's probably too much trouble. Don't worry about it. We'll see. Everybody has to read the next communique. That'll be your teaser.
Oh, all right. Now, what do I have to do if you want to share? Why don't you just tell me?
Somewhere down there should be a little.
Okay.
And then enable screen sharing or something along those
It
lines.
says one participant can share at a time. So why don't you try?
Well, I did, and it won't let me because you haven't allowed screen sharing, I guess.
Okay, try it again.
There we go.
Thank you, David.
My pleasure. If you can see.
Oh,
that.
nice.
Oh, wow.
That's nice.
Gorgeous.
Wow.
So, Jack, very cool.
Captain stuff for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think he was a shipbuilder in Norwich, Connecticut, right? So it all makes sense.
He was a ship captain.
Captain, that's right.
Huh.
And of course, it has lots of
That
hidden
is just
departments
so
back
cool.
there.
Beautiful.
And it's in such nice condition. My goodness.
Yeah.
Actually, I may have to share one of mine too. I have one that's very similar to that with that we call the Cooley desk that came through the
Wow.
Cooley family. I'm not sure. I think it may have come to Michigan at the time that they came back in the 1800s. Don't have all the history, but a cousin kept calling it the Cooley desk, and she said she remembered seeing it in the house of her grandmother Cooley. So kind of a common thinking. I'll see if I can send that shot too.
I mean,
Yeah, it doesn't have quite the history because I can't document it, but it's certainly a very cool desk. And we use it still today with the pullouts and the slant top and the whole thing. I think the Hepplewhite was the name for the handles. I'm not sure if that's what they are there.
Huh.
But they're nice pieces, and I'm welcome to. I guess you and I have some similar sub interests here. So, thank you for sharing that. I'll see if I can send a photo too.
Great.
sounds great.
All right, so I am going to share my screen, and then Nancy will give us a little base goals of the organization.
I've seen that before.
Beautiful, isn't it?
It is. It is. I will just speak for a minute, Patty,
Yeah.
on what we are as a lineage society. Because at one time, everybody was doing the research on one specific line, and that was related to Benjamin. And of course, we've opened up to any Cooley, and there are Cooleys that are from Benjamin and Cooleys that are not. And sometimes we find out that we are cousins in different ways, looking at that DNA. But a lineage society is basically an organization to honor specific heritage or events. Probably the one that's best known in the United States anyway is like the Society for the Mayflower Descendants or something like that. So there are different lineage societies, and frequently they'll come from, I would say, celebrations of the founding of America or the colonization of America. And then you have the hereditary part, the hereditary society, And that is just the Cooley name. And there's, of course, lots of different settlers from way back. The early settlers have different hereditary societies going. It could be, I'm trying to think of some. Doug usually throws out all the names of people that were with our original family that still have, like the Burts, that still have societies, hereditary societies in their name. And then, of course, there's the association, the family association. And that's a really big part. What we do, of course, besides having a reunion every 2 years when there's not a pandemic or a war, is we organize all that family history information the best that we can, do a lot of genealogy research, organize the reunions, keep the family name alive and going and changing and moving in a positive direction, keep our members informed with newsletters, have meetings just like this one. Although this is our first one on Zoom, we do host our board meetings every 3 to 4 months. We have not had any learning sessions online, but usually those have been reserved for our reunions. For example, this year we're going to be having a speaker who is going to be talking about migration through New York. And of course, that will serve us well. During our last reunion, we had Sunny Morton, and I was so excited after I, attended her session, because I came home and immediately started doing research on the triplets, because in that great big thick book that David showed you in the Cooley family, there's only one set of triplets, and they happen to belong to my vein of the family. And they were biblical names, the 3 of them, and I don't know if I can recall them. Something Abednego. If anybody knows them, they can throw the names out. But anyway,
Meshach and Abednego.
that was their 3 names. Who said that?
I did. Jack
Okay.
Wells.
There you go. And that was their names. And of course, they died a few months after they were born. But sometimes I learn so much when I go to some of these breakout sessions where you can, learn so much, and it just inspires you to do more research into little specific areas or questions that you may have. So I think the association, just the learning about things is really, really helpful to anybody who's a Cooley. And of course, we have the website, we have Facebook. I don't know anything about Twitter because I don't tweet. So, but I think it's just that whole coordinated effort from the board and all the board members that keep the organization moving, keep the organization together, and keep us all focused on the Cooley name and just keeping it going for forever and for the future. Okay, Patty. Oh.
So the goals for our future that Doug kind of spoke up about in different of our board meetings were some things that David touched on, which is where to put our archives. Doug had, I don't know, 12 file cabinets and boxes and all these things that he had been caretaking. And he actually shipped a box to me at one time. And then working with David to find a place that could hold the Cooley records and things like that. That's part of the goals going forward of the Cooley family, is to preserve the family records. David said that we have some things digitized. We have vast amounts of things that going into the future, we don't know how we're going to do it all, but things will come up with technology, or maybe we can hire or what have you, but we want to digitize a lot of the collection and make that available. In the future, we're still going to be doing lots of research on the family and preservation efforts and DNA updates. And I didn't really write myself any specifics. And so I will just let you know that when Doug is back on board, we'll add some of those things that we were talking about. And then Nancy and I are actually going to move into the Cooley family's next reunion and just what the plans are for that. And so I'm going to go ahead and spotlight Nancy, and she'll tell you dates and where, and then I'll let you know about the activities.
Well, let's see if I can find our let's see if anybody can see this.
Yay! Wow.
I don't know if I can get it all on the screen.
Yeah, you did good.
That should be on the t-shirts.
It is.
It
And
is,
it's going
okay.
to- it's going to be on the t-shirts, and it's also the cover of the, booklet, the pamphlet,
Yes.
the little
Okay.
booklet that we do.
Okay.
And the reason I'm holding it up, so of course I have trimmer, so you got to kind of,
That's
I'll
a cool
try to,
thing.
is that steady, Freddie?
It's good.
Okay, so the dates, of course, are July the 28th to July the 30th of 2022. It'll be in Albany, New York. And I'm thrilled because Albany holds the records. It is the archives for the state of New York. And so there will be records available to us there that we would not be able to get anywhere else in the state of New York. And New York was a really important migratory route, as you will hear, as Jane Wilcox, who is going to present to us in her talk when she speaks to us on that Friday night, right after we have our family buffet. So it's pretty exciting. When you come, you'll be able to pick up your t-shirts. So I think that when the next newsletter goes out, it'll have a place for you to put your size so we can get you an appropriate size. I like comfy, so I like the big t-shirts, whatever you're comfortable with. You'll be able to pick up your book, which will welcome you to the reunion, and then that'll include our schedules for activities, which Patty will go over all that with you in a moment. And let's see what else.
Actually, I think that's beautiful, because we want to save, Jay has a exciting slideshow coming up in just a minute. So
Super.
basically the reunion in Albany, New York, we are planning for people to meet at the Hilton. We'll have like a little welcome reception. We'll introduce the board to everybody. We'll pass out t-shirts, have a little refreshment, and the materials that Nancy said. The next day, because we're not exactly sure the time schedule, We are going to take a visit as a family. We believe that we're going to do the city bus tour to transport us to and from and to and from and to and from the New York State Library and Archives. We'll have a chance to get a tour by a docent. We'll see little parts of the city. We'll have lunch together. We may have lunch together on a river cruise. We may have lunch outside of the archives, we're not sure. And then the bus will transport us back to the Hilton. Everyone will have time to freshen up, maybe go back to the archives, maybe take a nap. And then we will have a reception. We'll have our buffet dinner. We'll have our keynote speaker. And then we generally have awards. And it is beyond fun. Circles of tables with Cooleys, describing their day, their adventures, what they found. You make new friends. You exchange research materials. David and I shipped books to each other. We found so many things together one year. And then the Saturday is really important to us because that's when we have like a business meeting. We approve minutes, we elect officers, and then the new officers have a new lunch. And a long, long time ago, the Cooley family kind of had this very relaxed thing where somebody was president for 2 years and somebody else was president for 2 years. And then somebody else was president for 2 years and it just kind of swayed. But we've been getting this kind of hiccup with the whole COVID. So we're a little off and everybody's been holding their position for 4 years. So we're looking forward to people that want to have a little bit of fun and get a little bit involved and just put one little foot in and join the board. So we're hoping for that. Thank you everybody for listening. And I am going to turn this over to our Jay Smith. And then I'm also going to share, let me find you, Jay. Okay, so Jay, I don't think I'm going to spotlight you because I think I'm going to share my screen. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, let me get my screen going. PowerPoint. All right.
Okay, they asked if I would talk a little bit about some of the exciting things that go on in these reunions. You've already heard what's coming up. I'm anxious to be able to go there. I counted up and there have been 40 reunions in the past. This one coming up would be the 41st, and I have been to half of them or 20 of them. So I have seen a lot of these reunions. And if you want to move along on this now, Patty, there we go. Here is the first reunion after the organization. In 1938, it was held in Niagara Falls, and Mortimer Cooley, who you've heard about, is included on the very front. You can see him with his little mustache. He was the one that started all of this. And then we went 2018, 80 years later, and here we are again in Niagara Falls. And if you can see the second row, you'll see me and my sweetheart next to me, my wife and my daughters up above me. And then David, who we've heard from today, is there on the far right. The next picture will show that same group right in front of the falls with that beautiful rainbow. And this is what we find at these different places we go to. We not only learn more about family history and Cooley cousins, we learn something about those locations. For the last 5 decades, we've been going every 10 years to Springfield. So we'll look at the next slide now. And here we are in Long Meadow. That is right next to Springfield. This is where Benjamin Cooley first started, where he built his first home. And this is the Long Meadow Historical Society buildings. And when we go to Springfield, we usually stop in and visit places such as this. The next picture will show this Noble and Cooley company that we talked about. And you'll notice the group of us underneath it. That's where we have now the archives stored that David talked about. The original part of some of these things came from Frank and Elizabeth Cooley, who lived in Kentucky, and I was able to visit them their whole house was a library of Cooley artifacts and papers. And a lot of that is what now is in this particular building, just a few miles from Springfield. So the next time we're due to go to Springfield will be, and Long Meadow will be in 2026. So here is the drive in Long Meadow, actually Cooley Drive. Cooley was a big important name. David, his wife, and his two daughters. So let's look at the next one, reunion. We also had a reunion. You heard Patty talk about going to Washington, D.C. The DAR Museum was a location where we took a tour and learned more about what they have stored there. So that's what happens a lot of time in these reunions, like we're going to do in Albany. We're actually going to go and spend a little time in the Albany Historical Building and talk a little bit about what they have there as well. Be some time for us to do a little research if possible. The next slide will show other places where we've been doing research. You notice in one reunion, we actually had a series of computers in a room. This was in Salt Lake City, where we're able to do some work with Family Search, one of the premier locations to do work and find information on families. And so that was in Salt Lake. We've been there a couple of times. That's close to my home. And the next one will show some of the materials that we have put on display at those reunions. There's the big blue book, another copy of it. You notice it's been used, pretty big. And next to it, to the left, is the book that I was instrumental in putting out for my own family. My great-grandfather left Michigan on his way to California, and he stopped in Utah to visit some relatives and never left. So this is Andrew Wood Cooley, and this book is a history of he and his ancestors, as well as a lot of the descendants. So we do share these kind of records when we go to the reunions as well. The next slide will show some of the publications. Well, excuse me, this is a keynote speaker. I think this is Sonny Morton that we had in our last one. We always have a keynote speaker that can tie into some very interesting background for us and helps in our genealogy work. This one is How to Discover Your Ancestors' Amazing Stories. It's not enough to know just the names, but what's important is to know more about them, what made them who they were, and how we then can relate back to them. And it makes a difference in our understanding of our own feelings and our own relatives. So we always have that keynote speaker, and there's going to be one in Albany again. And then the next slide, the last one here of this list, shows these books. Notice she showed you the cover. Here was the one, there was a cookbook in 2016. We all get a book to come back with us there. And so those reunion materials are part of what goes into the money. By the way, my job is to get the applications for the reunion. The prices will be out pretty soon for you, so you'll know. The Albany Hotel, we made reservations for people to sign up for at a good rate. And so again, I hope that we'll see you there, and I'm planning on being there for my 21st reunion. That's hope. Hope you'll be there with us.
Yeah.
Okay, now Nancy has thank you so much, Jay. That was just beautiful and I loved it.
It was.
And then Nancy is gonna kind of escort us into our
Very nice.
closing, I think.
Well, we have something, since we have our first Zoom, I would like to feature Jay, because we have another first. And before we close, we have something what I think is extremely special. Randy, are you ready?
I am ready.
Well, Jay has been our president, our vice president, our treasurer. He's been a member for over 55 years. He's attended, this will be 20 reunions. And we would like to, and I don't want to cry, we would like to honor you, Jay, in a very special way. Randy, if you could take it for a minute and read that to everybody.
All right, this is a Lifetime Achievement Award presented to J.M. Smith Jr., who's been a member since 1966 and served as president, vice president, and treasurer. In recognition and appreciation for over 50 years of excellence, service, dedication, vision, and commitment to the Cooley Family Association of America, advancing its interest and encouraging its mission to up-and-coming generations for years to come.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I deserve that, but it is a beautiful plaque. If you can see it. I'll keep that here.
Well deserved.
It'll get passed on to Randy.
It arrived 2 hours ago, so good job.
Wow.
Wow, 2 hours ago.
Thank you. I have really enjoyed it, and especially all the people that I've come to know through the years. I've outlived a lot of them. And so
And I don't think the auction would be here without you, man. That's, you know.
Jay's the one who got me to join before I even knew there was a Cooley Association. Well, Bill Cooley told me about Jay, and Jay got me in before the Long Meadow reunion.
And there we go.
Yeah, she called me
Well,
last
thank
week.
you
I was
very
real
much for
shocked.
that award. Appreciate it.
How many hundreds and hundreds of Cooleys and Cooley friends you've touched their lives, Jay? That's why I
Yeah.
stepped up. I asked you all about being vice president,
Yeah.
and all you could say was you loved it.
Thank you, thank you. I really have. I've been blessed.
All right, Nancy's
Well
going to
deserved.
close us out. Thank you, everybody, for
Okay.
coming.
To close this, I would like to say a few words to Jay. Jay, we honor you. We cherish and we love you. We hold you so dear, and we value everything that you have given to the Cooley Family Association in the leadership role and also in just a supportive role. You know, my mom and I have a nickname for you, Yoda. And the reason that we have came up with that name is because you were so wise and so helpful, and you were just such a foundation for us with all the support work that, not just the leadership, but the support work you did and the networking that you do with everybody, and your commitment to this, you know, this whole association and moving it forward to places and doing things for the organization's future that none of us even know about. It's for my children, for my grandchildren, and for their children, so that the organization will be there for what we can't even imagine in the future. I am so grateful to know you and to have been able to just be in your presence. And if it's one word I could say about Jay, it's presence. Because the minute you meet him, you're present. And it's just an unbelievable feeling to have in your life in that moment when you are so present in that second, in that minute, in that hour. It's a beautiful thing, Jay, for you to share yourself with everybody. Very generous. And I love you.
Thank you.
So on that note, and I guess we will close our first Zoom. I hope it's been helpful to everyone. And I'm really hoping we can do this again. This would be great.
Albany or bust.
Albany or bust. That sounds great. So in the next
job,
newsletter, everything will be explained about how to go about signing up for the reunion, and we hope to see all of you there.
Thanks, everybody.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Night.